Hello YouTube, my name is Ads and today we're watching the Reddit mod video, that infamous video that's been going around. And full disclosure, I have actually seen this before. Has been going around, it's kind of impossible to avoid. Basically, the Cliff Notes version of this is that this guy was the top mod of r/livestream fails. He got removed as a top mod for a reason that we'll get into, and he was not happy about it. So this is going to be a fun one. And I have seen it, but I do think there's more to be said. I think I have an interesting perspective on it, so we'll see how that goes. Just a quick reminder that you're watching the Highlights channel right now. If you want to catch these streams live or want to check out my more high-effort analytical content, consider checking out the main channel linked in the description. So let's just get this one thing out of the way first. I'm not going to comment on his appearance throughout this video. People have already said everything there needs to be said. I'll just say it once at the start and then leave it for the rest. Yes, this guy is what you think of when you think of a Reddit moderator. He is the stereotypical Reddit mod. It is what it is. Like I don't like to comment too much on people's appearances because, you know, it's not something you can completely control. That being said, I do think that if you're balding that much, there's no shame in balding. It's a thing that happens to a lot of guys, but at this point, just embrace it and shave the whole thing off. I think he'd look better if he was completely bald. But okay, that's all I'm going to say about his appearance because I don't think that's productive. But let's get into it.
Hello, Spez, Mr. CEO of Reddit. I hope you have received this public video that I have created and sent to you via your email. If not, I hope anybody who cares about the topic in this video can get this to him in any way that you can.
Okay, and the one thing I will also say is I'm coming at this also from the perspective of somebody who does YouTube. Well, if you're watching this on the Highlights channel, all you've ever really seen are my reactions. That's not the normal content I do. I usually actually make video essays or reviews, that kind of thing. And so I am very familiar with how to make a scripted video. And this video is very clearly scripted. And there are a couple things I do want to mention right off the top of my head, and I will give him some leeway because I don't think he's like a regular content creator. He has been periodically uploading videos for years now, but he doesn't seem to make content creation something that he does as a hobby very much. Just whenever the inspiration strikes him, it seems, he makes a video. So I'm not going to be too critical over his lack of practice. That being said, there are two things about the way he's presenting himself that I think are actually kind of important. The first is that he doesn't have the best camera presence. And to be fair, neither do I. But that's why I don't film myself and I just do voiceover. I think he would actually have been improved by just, again, not doing himself on camera and just doing a voiceover. Whatever you're doing in a video that you perceive as being important, that's actually trying to get a message across, trying to convince people of things, the way you present yourself matters. And in this case, I think his lack of camera presence is hurting his overall impact, even if his video had actual good points, which we'll get into that. And the second is, he also is not that great at reading a script and making it sound natural. That is ultimately something that does come with practice. I think I've gotten pretty good at it in my videos, but it is something that even, big YouTubers don't always figure out. Still, I do think presentation in regards to this, where it's essentially a persuasive video essay, it's important.
This video is about a topic of deadly seriousness, and that is of Reddit moderation and the state of your platform.
Okay, and so when I first watched this video, I initially thought that it was a joke. Like, genuinely, I thought it was a shitpost because of just how perfectly designed it would be if it was. Now, after doing a little bit of digging into this guy, not intense, I don't think it's a shitpost. I think he's being serious because he's either being genuine or he is really, really committed to the bit because he's been keeping this up for years. So I think he's actually being serious, but the thing that really made me think it was a joke at first was that line, a topic of deadly seriousness, Reddit moderation. And ultimately, I'm going to be a little bit of devil's advocate today. It is important to individual communities to have good moderation. I think moderation is important in a community just so that if it has a specific focus, the mods can keep it on focus, and it can keep bad actors from doing their things. Like, for example, if people are doxing, if people are spreading illegal things, that kind of stuff, that should get shut down. And good moderators can control that. That being said, there's generally only two reasons somebody decides to become a moderator of a social media presence. Either A, they have a dedication to that community in some way, shape, or form, where they are involved in the community, they're passionate about it, they want to give back. Or, maybe they have a connection to the community in some way. For example, the people who mod for me on YouTube, Twitch, Kick, and Discord, they're people I know, they're people I'm friendly with. That's why they have any kind of interest in moderation. The other reason is if you are power hungry. You want the power that moderation gives, because within a circle, being a moderator does give you power. It gives you the power to stop people from speaking. It gives you the power to ban people. It gives you a level of influence connected to that. The first, I think, is a good reason to moderate. The second is a bad reason to moderate, because moderation is not a good experience otherwise. It's a lot of work for no pay, and yeah, basically, you have to have an ulterior motive to moderate. And I ultimately do agree that you don't really need to show up on camera on YouTube. I don't think it's as necessary as people make it. I think it can add to a video if you have good camera presence. It's not necessary, and it can give a more serious tone. But at the same time, there are plenty of serious videos that are made with voiceover. The only thing is that if you're doing voiceover, it requires a little bit of extra effort to make some visuals to accompany it. Because if you're just filming yourself, you are the visuals, and that's all that really matters. And I'm not necessarily against the general setup that this guy has. Even the early 2000s background, it's a little dated, it looks a little silly, but I don't think it's bad for this particular thing. But yeah, ultimately, I just don't think this guy has great camera presence. He's not framed particularly well either. I mean, I think he looks like he might actually be a little bit off center, which is not good. You should be center frame. And maybe he should have been... no, I think actually this is probably good. He maybe should have zoomed in a little more, just because there's a lot of empty space above his head. Again, maybe if he centered himself a little more, that might look a little different. But yeah, ultimately, I think that being on camera just wasn't right for this guy, partly because his camera presence is not great. That is something you can train, but he considers this video to be an important thing. And when you're doing something important, the way you present yourself is important, both in terms of how you present yourself and also just everything about that. Like, for example, in my videos, I don't give off a very professional vibe. I speak clearly and calmly, but I'll swear, I'll make dirty jokes, I'll do all that kind of stuff. If I was doing something important, or something I could perceive to be important, I would not be doing any of that, because I know how optics looks. Again, this guy, aside from the fact that his camera presence is not great, he looks like a Reddit moderator, and that's going to turn people away from his message. And there is truth. I mean, as I said before, when you're moderating a space, you have a level of power, and that's why your voice does have more impact in that space, because you can actually back it up with something where if you say something, you say you want things to be a certain way, people kind of have to listen to you unless they want to get banned or they want to be silenced, assuming you're the type of person who's willing to wield that power. And on top of that, he was the top mod, the head mod of Livestream Fails. The way Reddit works is that it's a very hierarchical system with the mod team. The head mod is the dictator of the subreddit. Just flat out, nobody can go against what they say, and if they want something done, they get the final word. They get to add and remove mods. That is their tone. So he's not just like Reddit mod power, he had like the total control of that subreddit. So that's probably something that should be considered.
But first, some background. I'm Brian, or Stale2000, or Tarot Card. I was the top moderator of your #1 gaming subreddit, r/livestreamfail.
And this is a minor bit of a nitpick, but I don't really consider Livestream Fails to be a gaming subreddit specifically. While gaming is a piece of it just because it's live streams. A lot of live streamers are gamers. A lot of them play games on live stream, and Twitch, which kind of was not the first live streaming platform, but it was one of the biggest ones. It's probably the biggest one still today, and it was one of the ones that really popularized live streaming. It started out just gaming. Like, it was a long time before you could even do anything besides gaming on Twitch. So gaming is like commingled with live streaming, but it is not. Live Stream Fails is not a gaming subreddit. And also, I think a lot of what gave Live Stream Fails its big pushes has been actually IRL streams, which usually are not gaming, even though they started as gaming with Pokemon Go, but they're not really gaming. So I wouldn't call this a gaming subreddit, but that's a nitpick.
Before I was recently removed from that position by the Reddit Code of Conduct team. I became a Reddit moderator for one reason, and that is because I think that Reddit communities and correspondingly its moderators have massive power and influence, and for some reason, nobody seems to notice, care, or take this seriously.
So, he kind of just said the quiet part. He just kind of said the quiet part out loud there. Remember what I said earlier, that there are two reasons someone will become a moderator of a space willingly. Either A, they have some sort of passion with the community, or B, they want the power that comes with it. I guess you could also argue that there are certain instances where there could be a professional setting. Like, I know some like higher level content creators do actually pay their moderator team. And so if you're doing it for a paycheck, that's rare though. Again, it's either passion for the community or desire for power. And with more generalized communities, like on Reddit, one thing about Reddit is that the top subreddits all kind of have the same group of people modding, like all of them. And they really are the ones that give that Reddit the bad reputation that it gets. I think the smaller communities, the more niche communities on Reddit are actually not that bad for the most part. You can find some decent stuff there, especially the ones that really stick to their lane where they say, hey, we're about this video game, no politics here, that kind of thing. But when you have these generalized communities like pictures, or again, I don't use any of the top subreddits myself. I don't ever go on them, so I don't even know what they are anymore. When they're so generalized, it's very hard to have any kind of passion for that community from the start. It's possible for a community to build around those things, but the people who go in to a generalized place, the only reason you could want that is for power. And he just kind of admitted that the reason he became a Reddit mod was because he knows that there's influence and power to be had. And I don't think that is conducive to a good moderation team. Now, you can be a good moderator while still wanting to have power, but again, I'm very skeptical when somebody comes up and says that that's their reason for becoming a moderator.
Least of all, it's moderators or the company. In this video, I will go over why I believe this, and I will also talk about a code of conduct moderation action that was taken against me due to good faith mistakes that I believe were caused by a clear lack of direct material support that the company gives its moderators. I will I've seen this video, but there are things that I'm going to be a little bit devil's advocate in this video too, because I get why people are clowning on this guy. He's an easy person to make fun of. And I do think his core points are pretty off base, but I do think there are glimmers of validity that he has throughout this video. I think he completely goes about it the wrong way. I think his conclusions are wrong. But one of the things, I do actually partially agree with what he says about the way the admins of Reddit deal with the individual subreddit mods. I think there is a glimmer of truth there. And I'll talk about it when it becomes more relevant, because I know he goes into more detail later on. And let's see. Reddit is better than Twitter. Never got the hate for Reddit. Reddit is a mixed bag. Again, if you're going on the big subreddits, like pictures, any of the big ones. Again, I don't even know what those. I think Funny is one of them. Most of those, again, they're ruled by a small group of moderators who are very terminally online. They are very politically biased, and they really do try to direct things in their own sphere. Like, they want things to be a certain way, and they are very, very power hungry, very clearly. If you go, and when it comes to, as you said, more technical stuff, I think subreddits for individual video games are usually pretty good. I think subreddits for niche hobbies are pretty good. It's a mixed bag. And then Twitter is also kind of one of those ones where
it's kind of a cesspit, but that's part of the appeal. Twitter is, I don't know. I think there's good and bad about Twitter. I have fun on Twitter, but I understand why people are averse to that as well.
End the video by talking about what you, Spez, can do to fix this problem, as well as what I and other communities can do in case Reddit does not solve this very serious mismanagement problem regarding the lack of support that is given to moderators. First, I will go over the code of conduct action and why I was removed as the top moderator of r/livestreamfail. This sounds like stupid internet drama, I know, but I'm going to talk...
Okay. And that's another thing where when you are making a video that you consider important, this is not going to matter when you're just making a fun video or something like that. But when you're doing a video intending to convince people of a certain thing and you think this thing matters, technical hiccups need to be avoided. And one of the things is that whatever he's using, I think he's probably using a green screen or some sort, or maybe he's even just having like an AI remove the background of his video. Look at his hands when he waves them, because they glitch the fuck out, and that comes across as unprofessional. And right now, you don't want to come across as unprofessional.
/livestreamfail. This sounds like stupid internet drama, I know, but I'm going to talk about how this is a very...
yeah, again, you need to kind of cross your I's and dot your I's and cross your T's, excuse me, when you're doing this kind of thing. Again, this is not important if you're just making a game review or something like that. When you're trying to essentially have an open letter to a CEO of a large corporation, you can't come across as unprofessional. And this comes across as unprofessional because he's just not experienced enough to make the on-camera thing work.
Clear example about how Reddit's mistakes causes very serious problems to Reddit's community and the company as a whole. Here's what happened. There was an announcement related to a live stream related game show called $1 Million Fan. It was basically a game show like Survivor or Big Brother where fans of a streamer compete in different challenges with an influencer or a streamer for various prizes.
And I will say, on the surface, that actually seems like it could potentially be an interesting concept for a TV show. One thing we'll learn is that was most likely a scam. We don't know for sure, but we know 95% for sure that it was a scam. But I don't know, on the surface, that actually seems like a reasonable thing to explore as far as creating content goes.
The kicker here is that there was a grand prize of $20 million.
And okay, so this should have been a massive red flag to this guy, because $20 million as the prize for a reality show is outrageous. The big ones usually are $1 million, and that's like the upper end of what a reality show will usually give out as a prize. And there's plenty of game shows that give out much smaller prize pools too. Something like $50,000 or $100,000 is one that I see pretty commonly. $1 million is a lot. 20 million is ridiculous. I think the most I've ever seen, I know the Mr. Beast games had a ridiculous prize pool. I think they had like $5 million or something like that. But even that was ridiculous. And it was, I believe it was on Amazon, so it had Amazon money going into it. And also, it was Mr. Beast, and he's known for dropping ridiculous amounts of money. So the fact that it was the prize pool for this supposed reality show was 4 times that is ridiculous. And Reddit makes money primarily through advertisements, but they also, I know they have some sort of microtransaction system where you can buy little badges to put on people's posts and comments or something like that. I've never interacted with that really, so I don't know how it works. Oh, and I think they also have a subscription service for a premium membership, although I have no idea what that does. But yeah, they mostly advertisements, but there are some user related direct to consumer stuff too. But yeah, so the $20 million prize pool should have been a massive red flag. I would have immediately heard that and said, ooh, that doesn't sound right. And whenever you're doing this, you have to go through it with a fine-tooth comb. Oh yeah, Reddit Silver and Reddit Gold. For the life of me, I couldn't tell you what they do. I know they exist. That's about it.
Supposedly. This was supposedly going to be aired on Amazon Prime, and it was also confirmed to be including a couple of mid-sized and large streamers like Alexandra and Andrea Botez, Extra Emily, Canute, and a few others. Additionally, the opportunity was supposedly brought to these streamers by a company called Mythic Talent.
Now, one thing I do need to give this guy a little bit of leeway for is that I think not enough people are upset at Mythic. I think Mythic really, really dropped the ball here, and a lot of the blame for this whole situation should be on them. And personally, if I was affiliated with them, I would cut ties over this, because this was such like a dereliction of their duty to their clients that it is absolutely ridiculous. Because let me be clear. So Mythic is a talent agency essentially. They sign with streamers. I believe they focus on live streams and live streamers as their main clientele. When it comes to a talent agency, their job is essentially to sign with a talent, which in this case it would be a streamer, and help them with the business side of things, essentially. So one thing they'll do is they'll line you up with brand deals. They'll give you advice on how to market yourself more professionally, how to grow your platform. And basically, they say you can focus on being entertaining. We'll help you out with all the other stuff. We'll do a lot of the busy works. We'll negotiate brand deals for you. We'll do all this. And in exchange, they get a portion of your earnings. With the idea being that the amount they help you gain in extra is worth more than the cut that they end up taking from you. And that's how a good talent agency works. And that's how it works throughout the entertainment industry. However, one of the things they have to do is that whenever you take a brand deal, you're supposed to do due diligence. You're supposed to make sure that it's a reputable service or a reputable product, that you're not promoting a scam, that these people are on the up and up, that basically when you advertise something, you want to make sure you are accurately representing it and that people know what they are purchasing if they decide to give money to the sponsor. A talent agency is supposed to do that for you. Mythic Talent is supposed to do their investigations on every brand they cooperate with before bringing it to a streamer to say, hey, here's a deal we've got lined up for you. They clearly did not do this because I'll be honest, I did a little bit of looking into this whole reality show thing. It did not pass the smell test. Everything about it was off. There was no official communications from their supposed partner in Amazon Prime. Their website was dodgy as fuck. It was just full of AI, which I don't think a real company with money that would be willing to put $20 million down into a prize pool. It's just the whole thing was bad from the start, and Mythic should not have agreed to anything with them. So I think they should have a lot of the blame for promoting this. Like, they gave this thing legitimacy because they supposedly have legitimacy. It is absolutely ridiculous that they let this go through, and I think it's ridiculous that this guy's drawing so much heat away from them. And to answer your question, Livestream Fails is a subreddit where it's basically you share clips from various streamers. Usually it's negative clips, like if something stupid happens or if they say something bad, that usually makes its way onto Livestream Fails. And yeah, it's basically a live stream drama subreddit.
Which is a well-respected streamer agency that represents hundreds of live streamers. I heard about the game show a few hours after it got announced by a couple major live streamers. It sounded like the perfect type of content for a live stream fail. I mean, reality TV, game show, live streaming, gaming, that's perfect for LSF, which is about fun, crazy content about kind of live streaming gamers.
Okay, I get that he, as the former head mod, does kind of want to present Livestream Fails in the most positive light, but it is fundamentally a drama subreddit. It's meant for controversy, and again, he's framing it as kind of an uplifting thing, but it's not.
So when I heard about this, I was very excited. I immediately reached out to the organizers to see if we could set up some sort of a collaboration.
This is another problem. The fact that his first move was to reach out. Now, again, full grace to this guy, just to, again, being as devil's advocate as possible. The fact that Mythic Talent and other established live streamers did actually promote this thing grants it credibility that it shouldn't have, that it otherwise wouldn't have had. So I will say, I can understand why people can get suckered into this thing. That being said, if you're the one reaching out, you need to do the due diligence ahead of time. Even if other sources have referenced this thing, that it seems to be legitimate on the surface, if you're the one initiating contact, it's on you to make sure that there's actually a valid reason to do so, and that you're not potentially harming the people you are promoting things to. Because I do believe that if you have an audience of any kind, whether you are a content creator or a moderator or anything, you do have a general duty of care to your audience, and you need to make sure not to promote scams, essentially. Like, that seems like it should be kind of obvious, but you shouldn't promote scams. And the fact that he didn't take the time to do that is just, it's irresponsible, essentially. And because they didn't reach out to him, he reached out to them. He was not under any kind of time pressure. He could have done that kind of thing. Yeah, and when you buy something online, yeah, again, you should be doing research when you're buying stuff online, but then again, at that point, your only care is to yourself, and you can judge how much you're willing to risk in order to save a little bit of time.
This collaboration would just be to get cool content on the subreddit. No, financial incentives, no moderators being paid, basically none of anything like that, just fun, cool stuff for the community in the subreddit. For collaborations, the first obvious thing that came to mind was, how do we get their content on the subreddit?
Okay, so first I will acknowledge you, Marahi. This is just kind of my style of things. I am somebody who is like a traditional content creator. Like, I do video essays and stuff. I do high effort content. This is my low effort content. I understand why people don't necessarily like a lot of pausing and stuff. However, I would not feel right if I wasn't adding a substantial amount to each video. And granted, part of it is also I've seen this video, so I know that I'm not taking things out of context personally, because I know what the guy's gonna say. But also, again, ultimately, I do feel like it's important for me to be adding a lot. If people watch this video, because this is going to eventually go on my highlights channel, I want people to watch this video for me and not for the original content, because it's just, I don't want to take somebody else's work, even if it's something I'm making fun of and disagreeing with. I don't want to benefit off of somebody else's work without me adding a substantial amount to it, because I feel like that would be stealing. So that's just something that is very important to me. I understand that sometimes people kind of want a watch party scenario where they just kind of want to, enjoy something with somebody else. I understand the appeal of that, absolutely, but I would not feel right creating that type of content. And also, I'm known to yap. That's kind of my thing. So, yeah. So I do apologize if you don't like it, but that's just kind of how my reactions go. And I was going to say something else. Let me just back up so I can hear what
none of anything like that,
say.
Just fun, cool stuff for the community in the subreddit. For collaborations, the first obvious thing that came to mind was, how do we get their content on the subreddit?
So, okay, one thing he's going to go into here is that the collaboration was essentially going to find some way to get content onto the subreddit, and also potentially have some integration with Livestream Fails into the actual show. I struggle to understand what he was even looking for with this. Because, okay, so there are kind of two options. Actually, not even that. Basically, no matter how the show was supposed to exist, clips would likely make its way onto Livestream Fails. Let's live in a hypothetical world where the reality show was actually real, it was legitimate, and it actually happens. It's either going to show up on Twitch itself and it's going to be live streamed, or it's going to be on Amazon Prime. One of the two. Either way, clips are going to make it onto Livestream Fails. So I don't know why he thought he needed some sort of collaboration with them for that. And, oh, okay, so you aren't new, you just haven't seen live streams. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I like to preemptively make kind of where I am clear, just so people know how I do things. Again, I understand the way I do things is not necessarily going to appeal to everyone, but I don't know. This is how I'm having fun with this. But yeah, so going back to what I was saying, this guy was talking about getting content onto Livestream Fails. I feel like that was going to happen either way. Maybe he was looking for some sort of license agreement, but even so, I don't know that that's something. He certainly didn't need to jump on that. And it could have waited until actual announcements and release dates and things were confirmed and everyone knew it was actually already happening, all that kind of thing. But also, I fail to see what this could do for the reality show itself. One thing about Livestream Fails is that as a drama subreddit that is fairly toxic, I don't feel like they would actually be a good partner in general. Like, I think they're probably a legitimate brand risk. Like, it's one thing if they just kind of exist and are doing their own thing, but actively partnering with them could actually hurt the show's financial prospects. So I'm not sure what benefit he thought he was giving them by having Livestream Fails be directly associated with them. So I'm not even entirely sure what he was looking for, all things considered.
Either some super fans or some editors could clip some cool hype moment from the show and then post it to the subreddit. But I also had a stretch goal, and that was, what if LSF could be part of the show in some way? I don't know, there could be like a LSF themed best clip contest, like contestants compete in one of the kind of small
Okay, another criticism just of his presentation. His lighting changed there. He should have seen that happen, then said, oh shit, pause the recording, or even just went and fixed it and then cut that part out. Again, normally I don't really care about this kind of thing, but when you're making essentially an open letter, you gotta be careful.
To best clip contest, like contestants compete in one of the kind of small challenges, they make the best clip, and then somebody kind of wins a prize at the end. It was a stretch goal though. So I reached out to the organizers and
Okay, and so yeah, he did mention that he wanted kind of the clip competition as a stretch goal. I don't see why Livestream Fails had to be included in that. Honestly, it probably is limiting, where they could have a clip competition and just kind of have it open to everybody. Make it an open thing. Make it not Livestream Fails themed. Because again, I think that only benefits the show if Livestream Fails has some sort of positive reputation attached to their name that they could benefit off of. And at this point, again, I think Livestream Fails is a brand risk, so that's just not good for them.
And then somebody kind of wins a prize at the end. It was a stretch goal though. So I reached out to the organizers, and to my surprise, they immediately understood what LSF was, what power it had, and they even agreed to the stretch goal of like the cool competition to have in the actual show. From my perspective,
another red flag. When it comes to corporations, things don't move that quickly. If they're agreeing with you and agreeing to your terms on the initial contact, that is a red flag. They're clearly were trying to just sucker this guy in, and I know he mentions that he's a software engineer later in the video, which means he's probably got some intelligence, at least as far as technical things goes, but he does not understand how corporations work. He does not understand how businesses flow, and he just, I don't know, he seems to have some issues with social stuff in general, so he should have seen that red flag and he just didn't.
This felt like one of the coolest things that a subreddit has ever done. I mean, being in a freaking reality TV show in a topic that's directly related to the subreddit, how awesome. And then, you know, maybe I could leverage this to get even more opportunities, either for our subreddit or for other subreddits across the entire platform. That's how I felt, at least. And that's clearly not how it worked out.
And yeah, that is a good point. Why does it have to be a collaboration between the two and not something that Livestream Fails does on their own? That is the thing. And I think his motivation was not for the benefit of Livestream Fails. I think he just wanted more power and influence. Because the way he's presenting things, I don't see the clear benefits of a collaboration. I don't see why the reality show would want that collaboration. And he's not really proposing anything for the subreddit that they wouldn't already have. Again, I think it's just he wanted, well, maybe he indirectly wanted to benefit Livestream Fails. I think he essentially wanted to use this as advertisement for Livestream Fails, and by extension, increasing his own clout.
After they agreed to kind of a couple of these kind of requests that I had in my stretch goal, they immediately started moving very quickly. They wrote up an announcement and they wanted this out within like 24 hours.
Red flag. One of the things when it comes to scams in general is that they do not want to give you time to think things through. They put you on a timetable. They make it urgent. They say, you need to get this done right now, because a lot of times with scams, if you take the time and actually really think about it, sometimes the red flags will make themselves known. Sometimes it'll be like, oh, this doesn't feel right. But when you have to act right now, you're allowed to be emotional. It's easier to act on impulse. The fact that they're moving so fast, again, should have been just a glaring red flag that it's a scam.
So we quickly worked to make an announcement together, and I posted it the next day. When I posted it, everybody in the comment section immediately yelled, scam, 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 scam. This initially didn't actually worry me because no matter what we do, people call it a scam.
And I will say, to be full devil's advocacy, just giving this guy the benefit of the doubt, I can believe what he's saying here, that people are very quick to jump on things and immediately say that everything is bullshit, because people are understandably skeptical of things they see on the internet, because there is a lot of scamming that goes on the internet. So I can understand people essentially making false positives. But at the same time, it's like, if everybody's saying it's a scam, at the very least, you got to do your due diligence.
I mean, I've done AMAs with the Twitch CEO. People called that a scam. And I was also thinking, like, multiple major live streamers were involved. Mythic Talent was involved. Surely they had done their due diligence, right? Additionally,
yeah, again, he's not wrong there. Mythic Talent should have done due diligence, and they just didn't. I don't know why they didn't, and it's not even that they were fooled. They just did not do any due diligence. They did not look into them at all, because if they did, it would have completely fallen apart immediately, because this scam just did not pass the smell test. So he's not wrong when he said this, and I can understand how people could get suckered into it, because these names that they know that should have a degree of reputation to them endorsed this thing without actually doing their due diligence. I'm not even saying that he's wrong for getting fooled initially. I'm saying that he is in that position where he should have been one of the ones who was assumed to have done due diligence. Like, he is, as the moderator of a large subreddit, he has that same responsibility to his members as Mythic does to their talents. Well, maybe not quite that much, because there's no financial involvement there, but he has just as much of an obligation to make sure that what he's promoting is not a scam as Mythic does.
The thing that people were the most skeptical about was the $20 million grand prize.
Yeah, that is absurdly large.
This initially confused me as well, but once I heard that, you know, Amazon Prime was allegedly involved, my initial concerns were assuaded. I mean, think about it. Amazon Prime has spent lots of money on tons of shows, and, you know, I didn't necessarily think that the show was worth $20 million, but, you know, that doesn't mean that Amazon Prime wouldn't fund it.
Again, just full benefit of the doubt, full grace to this guy. I can see his argument there. Amazon Prime does drop a lot of money on experimental things. And honestly, I do think that's probably a good thing. Like, I actually kind of like that they're willing to spend a lot of money on things that may not actually pan out. Because it's just, you know, they spent like $250 million on that Lord of the Rings show that completely flopped. So I can understand Amazon potentially spending a lot of money on something that doesn't appear like it'll have an actual return on investment. But even so, $20 million is an absurd prize pool for something like this. Like, again, the Mr. Beast games, which I'm pretty sure was also on Amazon, I think they had a prize pool of like $5 million, which was already absurdly high for a game show. So 4 times that much without having a big name like Mr. Beast attached to it is questionable.
And, you know, if LSF was involved, maybe it would actually succeed. You know, maybe my involvement alone could make the $20 million kind of investment worth it. Who knows?
And also, I will just mention, this is obviously a joke. Like, people have been, I've seen people shit on him for this statement. I think just look at his face right there. He's obviously being tongue-in-cheek. Again, as much as I disagree with most everything this guy's saying, I'm not gonna shit on him when I don't think he deserves it. So I think it was obviously a joke, and I do think people are unfairly criticizing him for this statement in particular.
At least that's what I thought. Now here comes the next part of the story, when things get a little crazy. The next day, a major live streamer who was involved in the show, Extra Emily, said on her stream that she kind of saw all of these comments about people calling it a scam, and they even saw that LSF was involved, and this was apparently unacceptable to her, so much so that she was considering kind of dropping out of the show or kind of looking into seeing if kind of the whole thing was a scam or not. After seeing this, I brought the concerns to the organizers, and the organizers told me that they were currently in talks with the agents to resolve this, and they told me in no uncertain terms that the show was not canceled and was still going on.
Okay, so I will also give this guy a little bit of credit that he says that he saw a potential issue and then tried to kind of explore his concerns. I just think he didn't really go far enough. I think aside from contacting the organizers, I think he should have also reached out to Amazon directly, because if Amazon was involved, I mean, they would have said something most likely, but also if he just reached out to them and got confirmation that they were or were not working with them, that would have been a huge thing, because generally, if they're lying about one thing, they're lying about everything. So if you find out that they're not actually partnered with Amazon, you can just kind of assume the whole thing is a scam. And I don't think Amazon's actually said anything as of now, but I don't think they've actually have any connection with them whatsoever. So I do think it's good that he's actually looking into things when concerns arise, but he just did not go about it in the right way.
So me being somebody who didn't really have a lot of, information into the situation, and me, trusting these high-powered agents who represent these multi-million-dollar kind of celebrities, I trusted that they would kind of get to the bottom of this and kind of resolve these concerns quickly. During this time period, I saw and deleted a lot of unsubstantiated claims about the show and the mod team.
That is a problem. And I think that's kind of where a lot of his problems came from. Where it's one thing if you're like deleting like legit toxicity, like again, anything that's like harassment, doxing, slurs, that kind of thing, that I understand deleting. But he was just kind of deleting comments critical of things. And you just gotta you gotta have to let public discussion form. You don't want to direct the entire narrative, and that seems like what he was trying to do, because he is power hungry. He's admitted that he's power hungry. Yeah, it's one thing to promote a scam. It's another thing to promote it and then essentially cover for it, even unintentionally.
There were accusations that I knew to be untrue, such that, the mod team had accepted bribes or, had some sort of financial involvement with the show. And I knew that they were not true because I was the one who had this idea the entire time, from start to finish. This happened a couple days. And what I can tell you, for those who, may not believe that for most moderators, I'm a highly paid software engineer working in San Francisco. I do not need to take a couple $1,000 bribes from, random internet scams, okay?
I do believe him when he says this. I do think that this ultimately was not a case of trying to make money or anything like that, because you don't become a Reddit mod for money. Like, just flat out, the appeal of Reddit moderation is power. I think that's what he was looking for. I think he was looking for clout. And I don't think he was looking to promote a scam. I just think he was kind of stupid about the whole thing, and he just was way too trusting. But yeah, I do fully believe that he probably did not take any money for this, and that it was ultimately just him kind of being a willing sucker.
I was doing this because I legitimately, care about the subreddit, and that's why I spend my time on it. I thought it'd be kind of cool events for the sub. I'm talking about this and kind of the deleted comments because this is apparently some big no-no in the Reddit TOS or something, or maybe it's like an unspoken rule where if you're involved in some sort of promotion and it ends up not working out or it ends up being a scam or something, if you have deleted comments that have accused it of being a scam, well that, shows a cover-up or some way. It shows malice or bad faith or something. So that's
okay. So to be fair, he, as a moderator of a large subreddit, he should be familiar with the TOS. Like, he should know it, not necessarily inside and out, but he should have a solid understanding of the major points of that. And I think, and I don't know if there's a separate moderator TOS or not. I wouldn't be surprised if there was. Generally speaking, like, you should kind of know that it's not okay to, or that you should know that you have a duty of care to your community members, and that harming them, even unintentionally, is something that can have action taken against you. And honestly, whether it's bad faith or not, I think, let's say, And personally, I do fully believe that he's actually he's not malicious, he's just dumb, essentially. Or maybe not dumb, but like gullible. That I think is likely. But even so, if you're gullible enough to promote a scam to your audience, you probably just don't have the mindset or the skill set needed to be a good moderator. And you probably should not have that position, because even if you're not doing it intentionally, that position is being misused. Just like, for example, I know that I would not be good as the CEO of a company. I just don't have the skills, the knowledge, or the desire to really do everything that you need to do to run a company effectively. So even though I might not like run a business into the ground intentionally, I probably would in that position, and I shouldn't have that position. Same thing here. Yeah, and yeah, the unspoken rule of no spreading scans and covering them up later. Again, full devil's advocacy and just as much benefit of the doubt as I can give. I do think he's ultimately talking about. I think it's ultimately the thing he was doing was he was covering up the scam unintentionally before it kind of got the lid blown off of it, where he was promoting it, and then they said, hey, this is a scam, and he was saying, no, it's not, and shutting it down. So I don't think he was covering it up as knowing that it was a scam. I think he was essentially just trying to direct the narrative and control what people were and weren't saying, which is, pretty typical Reddit mod power abuse things. But in this case, it happened to blow up in his face.
That's why I'm kind of talking about this, is because this was specifically a reason that was brought up regarding why I was kicked out as a mod on a Livestream Fail. And finally, I want to end this part of the story by talking about how Moist Critical made a video critical of the situation. And then about 30 minutes after this kind of video got released, I got reached out by the organizers of the events and told that 5 live streamers in the event had dropped out, and that therefore the event was canceled and I should take down the post.
And one thing I will also point out is that I did not watch the Moist Critical video, so I don't really know what was said there. So I'm just this next section is going to be mostly responding to my assumptions of what was said, or just based on the information I actually have available to me. So if Moist Critical says something that completely contradicts something I'm saying, fair enough. I'll take the L on that one.
In this video that Moist Critical had that was critical of the event, Moist Critical brought up points about how an image on the marketing page was AI generated, or that the domain name was registered in Iceland, or that basically just the whole thing, it smelled bad. That's what he did. He did this motion and he said it smelled bad.
And as I said, it didn't pass the smell test, which, for those who may not be aware, which I assume that whatever Moist Critical said was probably a cheeky nod towards that turn of phrase. I know that's kind of how he speaks. He likes to, insert little jokes and silly lines to, just make what he's saying a little bit more entertaining. But yeah, to if something doesn't pass the smell test, it means that it just looks off from the start. Like it's not even convincing, and you need to do digging. It's just a cursory look would have made it fall apart. And based on from what I've seen, that applies here. Like, again, the images on the website were AI generated. The text on the website looked like it was made by ChatGPT. Again, when you look in a little bit deeper, the domain name was registered in a different country that doesn't make sense for what this project is. Everything about it just raises red flags, and that's a problem.
But beyond that, it doesn't seem like he did much research. I don't think that he reached out to any of the organizers. He certainly didn't reach out to me. And I mean, I don't know if he reached out to Mythic Talent or any of the streamers. Now,
and I'll go. When it comes to making a video about a circumstance and then reaching out to people, I think it depends on the circumstance whether or not you should be expected to. In this case, I don't think he should have been expected to reach out to this guy. Although from what I've heard, Moist Critical did actually reach out to other people, so he's actually just speculating incorrectly here. But in this situation, I think you can just make conclusions based on the things that are publicly available to see, and you don't necessarily need the comments from people involved to actually come to a reasonable informed conclusion about this. There are instances where if you're talking about somebody's situation, you should get their perspective on things if you can, but I don't think this is one of those circumstances.
I want to stop people here because this is very important, and I think this is something that not a lot of people might have noticed. And that important point is that nothing in this situation has yet to be definitively proven as a scam.
This is not a hill he should die on. The thing is, he's technically right, where it's technically not been proven conclusively that this thing was a scam. However, there's also not any real strong indication that it's not. There's like no everything that you can look at makes it seem like a scam, and nothing makes it seem legit. The only real thing you can do is that Mythic Talent promoted it, which is completely on their... that's on them. Again, I think Mythic Talent is not getting enough shit for all this, because they had an absolute duty of care to their clients. They had an obligation to do their due diligence and to look into these brand deals. Because, I mean, that's what they're being paid to do. And they did not do that, and they gave this scam a lot of legitimacy that it should not have had. And let's see, he looked at the website. Yeah, I would be surprised if he didn't look at the website. And he also got approached to publicize it too, so we got extra info from the organizers. Yeah, that's okay. That's good to know. So he actually did have some resources for himself. So yeah, and I think that means, I think just even from what was publicly available, like just the website and just what's been announced and not announced, you could come to a reasonable conclusion. It seems like he had even more information than that, so he came to an extra reasonable conclusion.
I repeat, there is no definitive, at least public information yet, that anything fraudulent, malicious, or illegal has happened in the situation. The only confirmed things that we have right now is that I guess there was a website, looked a little weird, there was some bad publicity, everybody called it a scam, and then a bunch of streamers dropped out, and then the event got canceled, and everybody got refunded. None of this is illegal. None of this is proved to be a scam, at least yet.
One thing is, I want to know where he's getting the information that people got refunded, because so far the only time I've ever heard about that is from him. I'm not sure that people actually did get refunded. Because, again, if it's a scam, it was going to eventually come out that it was a scam one way or another. It just doesn't make sense for them to refund it at this point. And if somebody does have some information, like anyone on the Highlights channel watching after the fact, if you do have information that people did get refunded, please let me know in the comments. Because it seems like this is just something he's saying, and I don't know where he's getting that information.
Maybe I'll eat these words. And yes, in retrospect, there are certainly some things which we could call yellow flags or even red flags. But that being said, I don't want people to go into this thinking that there was some proven malfeasance or something, when there really is a possibility that a lot of this could have just been kind of bad organization and things just fell through.
Yeah, well, I will say, if they're connected to Amazon Prime and Prime was having a financial involvement in it, it wouldn't have had this mismanagement issue. There's a lot of criticisms you can make of Amazon Prime, but they are a large company who knows how to work with these things. They know how to put on a TV show, essentially. I feel like this would not have fallen through due to mismanagement if Amazon Prime was actually involved. But also, let's say it was a legitimate venture that just fell through due to mismanagement. That's still not the kind of thing you should be promoting. Because fundamentally, at the end of the day, let's say you are a user who lost money to this scam. And let's say it's not a scam. Let's say it is real. It just failed. What is the difference from your point of view? You still paid for something that never got delivered. It doesn't matter if they intended to steal from you or if they wanted to give you what you ordered, but they just never had the means to do it. Either way, the result is the same. People got screwed out of their money. I think this is not the hill he needs to die on. Instead of arguing that maybe this wasn't actually a scam, his better position would be not that maybe this was legitimate. It should be that I got suckered too. He should at least try to take the small L of I was an idiot to avoid the bigger L of I'm a bad actor, which I don't think he is a bad actor. I think he did just actually legitimately fall for it. But this is just making him look worse.
Just because something's a bad idea, just because something is misorganized, that doesn't mean that anything illegal happened. You know, I still haven't gotten confirmation about kind of the Amazon Prime kind of a thing. I think that is the biggest unknown right now is I don't know about this supposed Amazon Prime deal, if it exists or not, because maybe they were in negotiation with them. Maybe a contract was in the works, but hasn't been signed yet. I'm not really sure yet. We'll have to see. And then kind of I'll end the story by talking about why I got removed as the top moderator. It's really not a secret or very surprising. I got removed directly for the post that I pinned to the top of the subreddit related to the game show or supposed and alleged scam, as well as kind of for deleting comments that were kind of critical of it.
Exactly. That's the thing. He's going to frame it as like, oh, he doesn't have the leeway to make honest mistakes. And I think in this instance, promoting a scam is the kind of mistake that should get you removed as a moderator. Like, quite frankly, if any of the people I've had mod for me, either on my YouTube channel or my Discord channel, even though I don't have a lot of mods, I only have I think I have 2 total, aside from myself. But if any of them actually promoted a scam using my platform, yeah, they'd lose their mod status that day. So just because he wasn't acting in bad faith doesn't mean the removal was not proper. And it doesn't mean that Reddit is wrong for having that stance. Because personally, if I was in charge of Reddit, I would have removed his mod status too, whether or not he was acting in bad faith.
I also want to make a comment about kind of the Reddit Code of Conduct team as a whole. Reddit has all this flowery language about how kind of the Code of Conduct team is not here to punish you. It's kind of here to get you to act in good faith. It's here to kind of give you second chances and warnings and all of this stuff. And apparently all of that are lies.
Okay, so 2 things. One, again, another little nitpick. He did have a little bit of a slur when he said, not like a racial slur, like he slurred his speech when he said flowery. When you're making a video like this, that's essentially an open letter, a video essay, something that is scripted, prepared, edited. When you misspeak like that, when you just kind of fumble your words, just do another take. It's not that hard. I think I've gotten pretty good at speaking and doing voiceovers in my time on YouTube. But even I screw up my words regularly. I mess up a lot when I'm recording my videos. Not as much as I used to, but I still mess up. And what I do most of the time, there are some times when I say, fuck it, not worth it, which I shouldn't do, but I do, is when I mess up and I fuck up, I'll stop, re-record the line, and just edit it out later. That is what he should have done. It's not very difficult to do. It takes, a few seconds to edit out a bad take. But when you're making an open letter to a CEO, you gotta come off as professional as possible. And this is just an easy thing he could have done to prevent looking unprofessional. I was going to say something else, so I can't remember what it was.
To act in good faith. It's here to kind of give you second chances and warnings and all of this stuff. And apparently all of that are lies.
Okay, I remember what I was going to say. The other thing is that when it comes to having a corrective approach to TOS, I generally agree with that. I generally agree that you should give people the opportunity to fix their behavior before actually being fully punitive about it. That being said, I kind of view that more as being lenient towards just ineffective or bad moderation. Like, if you're being a little bit too harsh on people, banning people for the littlest things, or if you're letting things through that you shouldn't let through, or you're allowing people to break the site-wide rules, or you're promoting an environment that is far more toxic than it should be, that I think is the avenue for corrective action and not punitive action. However, when it comes to actually promoting a scam, that can actually legitimately harm people And it's one of those things that I can understand having a hardline stance against it. I would personally have the same stance in Reddit's position. This is just something they cannot do, and they may even have a legal liability if they didn't take a hardline stance against it. Because companies are like social media platforms generally have some protections when it comes to the actions of their users. And Reddit mods are fundamentally users, they're not actually employees of Reddit. So if somebody does something, like let's say I defame somebody or I commit copyright infringement, that's ultimately lands on me, and it's not YouTube's fault for hosting my copyright infringement or my defamation. So just the way the law works, they have a protection against me. Basically, if I do something bad, it's not going to give liability to YouTube just because they hosted the platform that I did the bad thing on. As long as they make a good faith effort to remove stuff like that when they become aware of it. Which is why when somebody does a DMCA takedown, YouTube actually has to do something about it. They can't just completely ignore DMCA stuff. So if Reddit did not take action against him, I could imagine there's a world in which they could actually be partially opening themselves up to some liability because they said, hey, there was this scam on your platform. This was promoted by this person, and they're still in their same capabilities to promote scams in the future. Why is that, company? So, yeah, I get what he's saying, but I think this is too serious of an incident to warrant just, hey, here's what you did wrong, here's how you can fix it. And you haven't seen anything about people being refunded? Yeah, I don't know where he got it, but that's something I would like to know.
Because I was not given any second chances. I was not given very much kind of descriptive examples of kind of what I did wrong or kind of given any ability to kind of defend myself. I was just given a very vague description of, yeah, there's accusations about some fraudulent scam that takes people's money and their PII, which means their name, right? Because you have to sign up with your name to join a contest.
PII stands for personally identifiable information. So he could have just said that.
And so I have infringed on the code of conduct by promoting a game show where you have to put in your name or something, even though it hasn't really been proved to be fraudulent yet. And so it's a little disappointing. Now, here's the most important part of the video, Spez. This is a direct message to you and only you. I want to talk about how this whole situation is a direct result of the lack of support that Reddit, the company, gives to its moderators.
Again, I completely disagree with that. I think the result is that he did not do his due diligence. He got excited about a potential avenue to improve his own position as far as his internet power and clout. And he just jumped the gun on something that turned out to most likely be fraudulent. It's not on Reddit to make sure that you do your due diligence. It's on you to do the due diligence and Reddit to provide the platform for you to speak, essentially.
Yeah, I did the partnership. Yeah, I didn't look into this as much as I should, and I trusted kind of agencies and live streamers when I should not have. And I did delete comments, which I thought would have been borderline defamatory if the situation wasn't, I guess, a scam, even though it technically hasn't been proven to be a scam yet.
And okay, this is very, very nitpicky from me, but it wouldn't be, I don't think it would be defamatory if the people genuinely believed it to be a scam and were saying that it was a scam, because when it comes to public figures, and I would say in this instance, under the legal system, this guy would be considered a public figure for the purposes of a lawsuit. And I'm not sure how it works with companies, but I assume it's a similar standard. For a defamation to actually stick, they would have to prove that the person not only said something false, but that they knew it was false, or that they should have known it was false. I think it was a reasonable conclusion to come to that this whole venture was a scam, and he just didn't do that. Reddit mods, the way it kind of works is that Reddit is like fundamentally decentralized. Well, it has a central like authority with the admins and the people who actually run the website, but it has a bunch of other littler communities, and each one has their own mod team, which is basically whoever starts it gets to be the head mod, and then they get to assign other moderators on top of that. So they're ultimately just users who have control over their own space. It's kind of like a Discord server where I have my Discord server. While I am technically underneath the rules of Discord itself, I am also pretty much free to run my Discord server as I see fit. It's basically the same thing with Reddit, although it's just a little bit more public. And
But
they're not getting
despite
paid.
all of that, there are still massive kind of like problems at Reddit, the company, due to the lack of support that caused this. But right before I go into the specific reasons of how this happened, I want to talk about why this matters in the first place. And this matters because Reddit moderators have power. They have influence.
Yeah, and again, I mentioned already that I think this guy's just kind of power hungry. He kind of openly admitted that he became a mod for power. But I mean, also, it depends on where the Reddit mod is. Like, if it's a moderator of like a subreddit with like 10 followers, they're not really going to have a lot of power. Versus, you know, someone like him who was the head moderator of a subreddit with millions of users.
If you were one of the people who is joking about like internet janitor duties or whatever.
Okay, so first thing, he said duties. That's just kind of funny. And that's another thing I'm saying. If you misspeak like that, and you're doing an edited video like this, just do another take. It's not something to be ashamed of. It's not that much of a hassle. But it makes you sound so much better when you go through your entire video not misspeaking. And the other thing is, you know, the whole joke about, you know, him being a Janny. Honestly, I do think that it's kind of important to keep mods a little bit humble and kind of encourage the people who want to mod for the right reasons. Because again, I do think people who actually decide to become moderators out of a genuine desire to give back to their communities, I think that is something that should be, you know, generally appreciated because it is important for those communities. But also, you don't want them to get a big head about it. So honestly, just keeping up the jokes and calling them Jannies or janitors or just saying they're on cleanup duty, that kind of thing. I think it's actually conducive to a healthy moderation ecosystem to let, you know, have people not get that sense of self-importance and, you know, agree to be the butt of the joke once in a while because, you know, that's just kind of part of how this all works, I think. And if they're genuinely passionate about the community, the jokes will be made with love.
If you were one of the people who is joking about like internet janitor duties or whatever, I'm sorry to tell you, it's funny jokes, but you are wrong. Reddit moderation does matter. Reddit moderators have control over millions of impressions per day, and nobody seems to notice or care. Let's just...
Again, full like fairness to this guy. Moderation, if you're a good mod, it's a lot of work for very little appreciation, and you don't generally get paid for these kind of things. So I do understand what he's saying there, but also, again, the power and the influence just should not be why you become a moderator. It should be because you actually care about the community you're moderating for, and that you want your involvement to make it better. It's not about recognition. It's not about... moderation, when done for the right reasons, is fundamentally a selfless action, not, you know, Reddit moderator stereotype.
Let's talk about LSF. Think of all the streamer careers that have been created because of LSF. Think about the even larger number of streamer careers that have been destroyed because of LSF.
And that's one thing I was talking about earlier. LSF is a brand risk. I would not, if I was running a big company and doing stuff involving live streams, I would not want to have any official association with LSF because they attract bad attention. And that's not what you want. That is not something to partner with. And it's true that, well, it's not that people have had their careers destroyed by live stream fails, but live stream fails does amplify the worst moments in a streamer's career. Sometimes it's, you know, fine where they actually do something horrible. Like if you know about the Hassan Dog situation, which again, I still find that whole thing very, very amusing. Yeah, that kind of just blew it up to outside proportions. But also it's just, there's a lot of people just looking for things that make somebody look bad. And a lot of times it's just publicizing and spreading somebody's worst moment where, you know, saying or doing one bad thing, crashing out once over something stupid, that's not always going to be a fair look on somebody as a whole, but that's kind of what live stream fails does.
about the even larger number of streamer careers that have been destroyed because of LSF, because some clip went viral about like something bad that they did. I have had major live streamers who are effectively celebrities come to me and beg to kind of remove, negative posts about them. An even crazier story is the time when some Twitch employees found me in person and borderline begged me to make sure LSF is not used to destroy the multi-billion-dollar company Twitch, partially because at the time, LSF was indeed being used to destroy the multi-billion-dollar company Twitch. Deservedly so. But
Yeah, that's one of those things that probably felt really good for him. He really felt like he had a lot of power when these people came up to him. I don't know if I necessarily believe the story about the Twitch employees, but I do 100% believe the story about the streamers, because there are streamers who, well, Livestream Fails is kind of known for having some degree of favoritism, where certain streamers, if they like them, they'll be more amenable to removing their bad posts, and more amenable to saying, hey, you can't talk about this person on the platform. Again, the mod team is not all that neutral, all things considered. But also there are some streamers who, I think a lot of content creators don't necessarily understand how to weather controversy. And a lot of them see the fact that their bad moment is being spread on Livestream Fails, and that they're dealing with some backlash because of that publicity. And they think the response is to try to get the post taken down, as opposed to just dealing with what's important and weathering the storm. So I do believe that streamers have reached out to him. But I also don't think that Livestream Fails has the ability to stop Twitch in its tracks. Aside from being part of the widespread negative PR that Twitch is facing. But I think Twitch would be facing that kind of negative PR regardless, because Twitch is kind of at the point where a lot of its success is basically inertia, and they've kind of run themselves assuming that they were the only option. They're basically acting like a monopoly that is no longer a monopoly. Because, for a long time, Twitch was kind of the only viable platform if you wanted to be a streamer and wanted to do that to a large audience and wanted to actually make a living off of it. Because, back in the day, there was Justin TV, which, did get bought out and become Twitch eventually. But, that never really, once kind of the Twitch brand started to exist, that overtook Justin, and now Justin doesn't exist anymore. And then back in the day, YouTube live streaming sucked. Like, it was plagued with technical issues. So even though you could stream on YouTube, that was not where people went to watch live streams, so it was hard to find an audience for your live streams on YouTube. And then there were a bunch of smaller platforms that just didn't have the infrastructure or the viewer base to really be worth engaging with. Nowadays, Twitch no longer has that type of monopoly. Nowadays, they have actual competition. And so that with YouTube is now a lot better with live streaming than it used to be. It's still not perfect, but it is a much better platform for streaming than it used to be. And there's also Kick, which Kick has its own issues, but they have the infrastructure and the viewer base to actually be a legitimate competitor to Twitch. Twitch is now kind of actually having to be held accountable for the various issues that they have, the way their mismanagement system is, the fact that a lot of their infrastructure is actually still very, very amateur. Like, for example, I believe, unless I've heard this from a bigger streamer, I don't know if it's true, but apparently the way Twitch's ban and unban system works is that the unbans, so let's say you are banned for a week, it's not that they just hit the ban and give a time limit of a week. They apparently ban you, and then in a week manually unban you. That is not how that should go. They don't have good content detection systems, which part of that is actually good for the streamers, just because you can kind of not have to tiptoe around things like you do on YouTube. And just in general. And also there's the fact that the mismanagement with like TwitchCon, where the fact that the whole Emiru situation happened at TwitchCon this year was absolutely unacceptable, both that it happened and their reaction to it after the fact. And Dan Clancy, it's funny to laugh at him just because he's kind of a gooner, but he just doesn't seem to be running things well. And I also do agree that the VOD system is better on YouTube. I will give a little bit of credit to Twitch and say there's probably a data storage issue, because YouTube has some of the largest like servers of any company, because they it takes a lot of memory to store a video for a long time. But so Twitch may not just might not have the capabilities of doing that. But yeah, and I do agree that at this point I prefer YouTube over Twitch. Although as a streamer myself, or a YouTuber who does live streams sometimes, I'm multi-streaming on YouTube, Twitch, and Kick right now because, why wouldn't I, essentially? But yeah, I don't think so. Getting back to my point, I don't think that live stream fails was being used to destroy Twitch, and I don't think they really had the ability to destroy Twitch. But they were kind of amplifying the existing negativity surrounding Twitch, and I do believe the negativity is absolutely deserved.
By the way, or even just take this literal circumstance. Imagine the whole kind of operation was legit. Well, guess what? One single post on LSF caused all of the streamers to drop out and destroyed a $20 million opportunity. Sorry, Mythic. My bad. Or imagine it was, a scam through and through. Well, guess what? We were the ones to expose it and destroy it before it had the chance to cause any real harm. I mean, everybody got refunded after all. Guess things ended up okay.
Well, again, two things. One, again, I don't think people actually got refunded. I haven't seen any information about it. He's the only one I've heard saying that people got refunded. So, I don't know. But also, and another thing, again, Mythic, I think, should shoulder a lot of the blame for this situation, because it would have had zero legitimacy if Mythic didn't sign on. I fully believe that Mythic is the reason that any kind of significant number of people actually fell for it, because they pushed it to their streamers and their streamers promoted it. That should never have happened. Mythic absolutely deserves a ton of blame that I don't think they're getting at the moment. But also, a lot of the situation happened because this guy also promoted it. He made the scam bigger. It could have just died in the water. Imagine, let's say Mythic wasn't involved, and it was just a case of he heard about this thing, promoted it, some people got scammed, but then it got the lid got blown over, and then it disappeared. That is worse than if nobody gave it any attention and it just died in the water before it really took off. You don't really get credit for partially fixing a problem that you caused, essentially. So the only reason the scam was as prolific as it was because it got promoted by people.
Right or wrong, you can think I'm a good moderator or a bad moderator. You can think that LSF helps streamers or is the bane of their existence in the entire industry. But please don't for a single second pretend like it doesn't matter. And that's just one subreddit. Now back to me. I was one of your most passionate users.
I believe that.
I was in the Reddit partnership program from the start. I took advantage of every opportunity that I could. I had meetings with kind of the Reddit community managers. I begged them for help and kind of partnership opportunities at every chance that I could. And I was blown off every single time. I got nothing out of it. The community managers never helped me. As, nice as the guy was, I think he had basically no power to help me.
I think ultimately, I don't know a whole lot about the Reddit partnership program or what kind of resources they have available to their moderators, because I'm not a Reddit mod. I have no intention of ever being one. So, it's one of those things where I feel like you shouldn't rely on the company too much for actual material support. It's one thing if they served a basic advisory role where they said, okay, here's kind of some advice on how to manage your community, especially with a group as large as Livestream Fails, because there's a lot of people there that can be difficult to manage. But I mean, he'll mention some of the stuff he's looking for, but I mean, I'm not sure what he was expecting from them. And yes, Boone, I mean, everybody knows this guy does look like a stereotypical mod. I'm not going to really comment on his appearance too much. I kind of got that out of the way in the beginning, because I don't think that's what's actually important here. Although I still say that, if you're balding that bad, just shave the whole thing off. I do believe a bald head looks better than a laurel wreath of hair.
one of the only moderators out there who tried to grow my community, who had any ambition, who tried to work with the company or help other subreddits or help the company that hell, and it didn't matter. I failed, and it failed because of how mismanaged and how little support Reddit, the company, gives to moderators. So let's circle back. Let's go back to the moderation situation. This is a very key important point, so please pay attention. None of this would have happened if I had gotten support from Reddit. You think that I want to be the guy like going out, like messaging random people in Discords and LinkedIn's and trying to figure out kind of these partnerships?
Okay, I don't really see why a moderator, somebody who is a moderator, not like for a brand, but just like moderating a community on Reddit, I'm not sure what he needs partnerships for. Like I can understand wanting to kind of act in the best interest of your community, but like I think a moderator's job should ultimately be just to take the space and make sure it's running properly. I don't know.
I don't. This is not my job. I am not qualified to do any of this. I am not a lawyer. I cannot read contracts to know what I should do or I should not do. I just want to like grow my subreddit, have a big vision, and I don't want to deal with this. At the end of the day.
Okay, that was another harsh cut. As I said, when you're making an open letter to a CEO, presentation is important. Having a harsh jump cut in the middle of a sentence, that's not good. Don't do that. If you make a mistake, just go back, do it again, take your time. It's okay. And one thing is, another little behind the scenes thing is that with practice, you actually can splice things together surprisingly convincingly. Granted, it's a lot harder when you're actually on camera, but there are times when I've essentially gotten enough practice with voiceover that I can say lines in a certain way that if I know a line is going to be difficult and that I might actually screw something up, or if it's just so long that I'm not sure I'll be able to get it out in one breath, I'll actually structure the way I speak in such a way that there's a point where I know I can splice it here and have it be borderline imperceptible if I need to. And I have at multiple times in just about every video have at least one mid-sentence splice that nobody ever catches. So it is doable. But this guy is just not taking any of the care to make this video come across as professional when you really do need that in this context.
I want to like grow my subreddit, have a big vision, and I don't want to deal with this. At the end of the day, I'm a random nobody who got lucky. I took over one of your largest gaming subreddits on the platform because I won a stupid game of like Reddit mod politics. But apparently, I'm the only person out there who understands the potential that Reddit has.
And again, I just really don't like how his points always circle back to power. Maybe I'm just a little strange like that, but I fundamentally believe moderation should be about caring for a community, not enriching yourself, even if it's not monetarily, in terms of just your own position in this kind of artificial social hierarchy. I just don't think that leads to good decisions as a moderator. And also, to counter that, I will also say that how can you really have people moderating for the right reasons on such a general subreddit like Livestream Fails or any of the other big subreddits? Because they're not niche enough to really be able to form a community on their own. Or at least they can't form a community until one has been established in that space. But by then you already have moderators who are in there for power. So I don't know what the actual practical solution to my concerns are, but the negatives I think are apparent.
If Reddit had offered me partnerships, if Reddit had pipelines to connect with kind of major companies, if Reddit had lawyers that were helping me, like reading over these contracts, reading over these agreements, none of these very real mistakes that I made would have happened.
Okay, so first of all, I do want to at least give the guy a little tiny bit of credit for acknowledging that he made real mistakes. Like, he doesn't really take accountability in this video, but at the very least, he is acknowledging that he is at least partially responsible. But one thing I also think, he fundamentally seems to not understand the relationship he has between himself or Reddit moderators in general and Reddit as a company. He seems to want to treat Reddit as a talent agency, where he wants them to essentially provide the resources to grow his presence on their platform. And that's just kind of not what that is. They are a platform, and they do have some communication where they want to make sure everything is kind of running properly. And so they probably do give you some advice, some basic resources in that sense. But their goal is not to make you successful. Their goal is to provide a platform for you to do what you will with. For example, YouTube is a lot of people make money on YouTube. A lot of people do sponsors on YouTube. While YouTube is kind of dipping their toes into potentially connecting people with sponsors and stuff like that, fundamentally that's not their role. And honestly, the only reason they're doing that is because they can make some money off of it. YouTube provides the platform with some basic levels of support. But if you want that kind of support that a talent agency provides, you need to get an agent. And the thing is, that's something he could do if he wanted to. What he could do, let's say he wanted to actually make this like a proper business venture. He wanted to make Livestream Fails something that he made money off of. He could potentially band together with his other moderators and make an LLC and actually start operating as an entity, hiring a manager or an agent who can actually set this stuff up for him and give him access to people who would give him legal advice when it comes to contracts, who would do negotiations for him, who would kind of help with the marketing and all that stuff. There's nothing stopping him from doing that. Well, now he's not the mod anymore, so that's stopping him, but there was nothing at the time stopping him from doing that. He just kind of expected to be handed all of that from Reddit because he's in this position of power over his community. And I think that's just the wrong way of looking at things. Reddit's job is not to help you grow. It's to provide the platform and make sure everything is running as intended. And make sure that you are enabled to grow on your own if that's what you want to do.
And before you say it, I'm sure there's some employee at Reddit, the company, that says oh yeah, we do that. That's my job. It's over here.
I don't think
clearly you're not even doing 1% of what you should be doing because nobody uses these resources. Nobody cares. You are not doing enough. Multiply it by 100 and then let's talk. Reddit needs to be professionalized, and it starts with the mods. This is going to be controversial, but the people who are running your multi-billion-dollar website are unqualified nobodies like me.
That's not a controversial opinion. Everybody knows that the Reddit mods are just people who take the job on themselves for whatever reason. Usually it's power, but for the smaller communities, it's a lot of times mods for smaller communities are actually just people who are ingrained into that community. Not always, but it's common enough. And at the end of the day, I think he's kind of overestimating the importance of any individual subreddit. While it is true that Livestream Fails has a couple million users using it and it has a lot of traffic to it, it's just one subreddit out of a lot. If Livestream Fails got shut down today, Reddit would not be really impacted at all. There's still so much else going around, and honestly, most of the people on Livestream Fails are probably using Reddit in other capacities as well, so they just migrate over to other subreddits. So, again, I don't think they need to treat the moderation team of any particular subreddit as important as he thinks they should.
Doesn't mean it's my fault or their fault. It's your fault, Spez. Here's why. The controversial solution is just get rid of the bad mods with better mods or paid mods or do takeovers or more rules or something like that.
Ultimately, I think one of the things about Reddit is that it is decentralized. It's each community is kind of responsible for cleaning up its own cesspit. They should be I actually disagree with Reddit's mod system in general. I don't think it should be this strict tiered hierarchy that they have where the head mod is the dictator and that any mods under them are subservient, and that ultimately if you are higher up on the list, you have power over everyone lower than you on the list. I would like to see a system where they actually do have a communal moderation system where one person can't just go rogue. But So I do kind of think that things do need to change, but also I do think fundamentally each community is responsible for having its own mod team that is doing its own thing. And if the mod team is not good, there are actually avenues to kind of take over, but those are usually done in extreme circumstances. But fundamentally, let's say you have a mod team of 7 people. One of them is just a bad mod. They're just not doing a good job. It's the responsibility of the other 6 to oust them and find a replacement. That's just kind of how that does. I don't think it's on Reddit to make sure each subreddit is actually having the best mod team, only to intervene when it's really bad. So yeah, I don't think it's on Reddit. I think it's on the individual communities. So I disagree with him on that point.
But there are better solutions. You can train them. You can give mods infrastructure or pipelines or resources or real kind of material support and treat them as if they have the actual power and influence that they actually have, and so communities can rise to the heights they truly could.
I actually almost agree with him when he's talking like that. Not the thing that really makes me disagree with that statement is the word material. I don't think they should actually have material resources. I don't think they need material resources. What I do think that Reddit should potentially do is just have some information available to them about, hey, here are the best practices for moderating a community. Here's how you can foster a good experience for your users. This is what you do when these common circumstances arise. Just things that you wouldn't necessarily be expected to know going in. And then maybe for at least the bigger subreddits, having an avenue just to have advice from Reddit makes sense as well, where like you can say, hey, we have this difficult and unique circumstance and it's affecting a lot of people. We're not entirely sure how to deal with it. What do you recommend? That, I think, is absolutely something Reddit should do. But again, I don't think they should be acting like a talent agency.
And the Reddit Moderator Partner Program is not it. Reddit moderators do not need one call with like one guy a month, as nice as he is, love you, Pablo, who has no power and no ability to affect anything. Reddit moderators don't need Christmas celebrations or special badges or community or events or team building exercises. No, even the Reddit event budget is barely useful.
I have no idea what that is.
They need real material support. That means access to anything that like a talent manager would give an actual celebrity.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. He's treating Reddit like it should be a talent agency when Reddit is a platform. A talent agency would provide a completely different type of professional relationship, and that is something he could have set up if he had wanted to. He could have created an LLC. He could have had an entity and put himself and the other mod members, the moderators, on the board of that LLC, given the LLC control over the subreddit essentially, and then said, it's a little difficult because they don't actually own the subreddit, the moderators. That's just something that is on a platform. Although maybe you could, I don't know, because I know you can own a YouTube channel, but again, I don't know because subreddit is fundamentally also a kind of mini platform inside of a larger platform. So I don't know what the legal logistics work there, but he could have created an LLC that uses Livestream Fails as their vehicle for business. And then from there, they could have contracted a talent agency or a manager or a talent agent, and everything he's asking for from Reddit could have been done privately, essentially. And I think that he could have gotten a deal done pretty easily, because even without paying them directly, at least like upfront, Livestream Fails does have the viewer base to where monetization wouldn't be that hard. So I think it would be pretty easy to kind of straight up, right out of the gate, come to a percentage agreement with a manager. I just don't know why he expects to be handed that stuff from Reddit instead of having to actually, do it himself and find the connections himself.
So, an access to a bounty board, or ad deals, or lawyers, or event organizers, or professionals, or anything that actually matters.
And the thing is, I'm also wondering, what would Reddit gain from ad deals? Because they're already going to be advertising no matter what. And Reddit is not one of those things that's centered around individual content creators. They're essentially the best way I can describe Reddit as far as the monetization system goes. It's a communicative social media platform that is kind of almost like a content aggregator, where it's not that people are creating all that much unique content on Reddit specifically. aside from just kind of, there are people who will like write up little things to go on there, but it's meant for communities to engage with one another and for people to share content from elsewhere on the internet. It's not something like YouTube where there'll be creators who people go for that creator to see what that person has put out. In that case, it does make sense to incentivize the creator to continue putting out high effort content or a lot of content or whatever it may be by giving them some sort of giving them a cut of the ad revenue. And that's why YouTube gives content creators 55% of the ad revenue they generate. Because more ad revenue means more money for everybody involved, and you want the individual creators to work harder. It's different when it's a community, where it's a bunch of people and not one person putting in all their time and effort into it. So Reddit, I don't think, benefits from giving ad deals or giving ad percentages, so I'm not sure why he thinks that should be something Reddit does. Again, he's looking for a talent manager, a talent agency, and he could have just gotten that himself.
To summarize, Reddit moderators should be treated like celebrities or influencers, not because they deserve respect or anything, but because they actually have real power and influence.
Okay, so I think he's actually... So, I mean, everybody memes on that one line that they should be treated like celebrities or influencers due to the power that they have. Honestly, I think the logical conclusion is actually the opposite. Not that they should be enabled and given extra resources. I think the solution is they should have more checks and balances applied to them, where they should be, they should have that sword of Damocles over their head saying, hey, don't fuck up. If you, well, not necessarily don't fuck up, but like, do the right thing, act in the way you should, or you are at a very real risk of being removed. So, I don't know. I do agree with him that there should be more avenues for like advice and just information. Because again, I'm never going to say that platforms shouldn't provide their users with information about how to do things. Because again, just having an FAQ of here are things you might not know about moderation going in that you should. Absolutely, I think Reddit should have that. But he's asking for things that are completely unreasonable, unrealistic.
I mean, if not for the world, at least over your $50 billion company, maybe if you gave them actual support, it could go from 50 billion to 100 billion. I mean, it certainly deserves to be that high up for how much traffic Reddit gets. So why?
Okay, I'll say, granted, I'm not familiar with the ins and outs of monetizing a social media platform, but one of the things is user base is not the only thing. Like, raw numbers aren't the only factor that shows to how monetizable a company is. A lot of it does depend on who the actual users are, what their composition is, what their demographics are, and also what ways can you monetize within the platform. So YouTube, for example, while YouTube, actually, I don't think YouTube's ever been profitable on its own. But though it does have a high potential for profit because it's pretty much ubiquitous. People all over the world use it. So you have, and also it's kind of the go-to video platform, especially in like, major wealthy countries. And that's one thing is wealthy countries, their users are worth more to advertisers than poorer countries. So if you take, the US or somewhere in Europe, for instance, the average user from that country is going to have more money to spend. So it's more worth it to advertise for them. So their ad rates will be higher as opposed to somebody with, I'm not even going to give a specific country, but any country that has a generally low GDP per capita, their average user is going to have less money to spend. So they're not going to make as much money advertising to them. And there's other factors regards like that. Like alcohol tends to have a higher return on investment. So those ad rates are higher. And also some people don't want to advertise for alcohol. So there's fewer opportunities to advertise for alcohol, which is why they can charge higher rates for that. That's one thing. But also on YouTube, there's the fact that you can show video ads that are actually first and foremost, that are front and center. You can't really do that on any non-video hosting platform, or at least any platform that doesn't have videos available, because there's nothing encouraging people to actually watch the video. Reddit is one of those kind of places where you can have an ad with a video in it, but you really can't make people watch that if they're not already curious enough to click on it. So that is a big avenue for monetization that Reddit just doesn't have access to. So I don't know if Reddit could actually be $100 billion company. I just don't know if they have the numbers to actually make that happen.
Haven't you solved this problem already, Spez? Is it because you're out of touch and you aren't aware of the problem? Is it because Reddit is a bloated mess and they can't ship products? No, I think the real issue is that Reddit is held hostage by the negativity and toxicity of its user base, and it doesn't really have the freedom to make bold and important and transformative decisions that could save the company. If you agree with anything that I said, Spez, well, you're in luck. I live in San Francisco, and I would be happy to talk to you in person or any Reddit product manager or employee at all, or on a call or something. That's my pitch to you, Spez. The rest is to the community.
Okay, so I also think his conclusion here of say, hey, I'm open for conversation. I'm actually just gonna quickly move that just so. I mean, I know pausing is never going to show the most flattering image, but that was particularly unflattering, so I'm going to move that a little bit. But I'm not sure why that conclusion makes sense to him. Let's say everything he was saying in this video was legitimate. There was actually solid points all around. There is a serious problem at Reddit that needs to be fixed. Let's assume all of that. Why is the solution a meeting with this guy? Because it feels like everything, if it was legitimate, every issue that he brought up is something that could be discussed internally without his perspective on things. I don't understand. I think it makes sense in his own mind. But that's the thing. When you're making an open letter like this, which is essentially a persuasive essay, you can't assume that your audience believes in the same things that you do. You just can't. You have to convince them of things. And I just don't think the average person is going to be convinced that he is the solution to the problems he's raising. At most, he is identifying legitimate problems that need to be addressed. But talking to him, I don't see where they benefit from it. He's already shown himself to not really understand the logistical side of companies. So I don't believe he actually has any practical solutions to things.
To the community, Spez and Reddit, they're almost certainly not going to fix any of this. All of this is up to us to solve. For anyone who this message has resonated with and wants to solve this problem, well, I have created a subreddit called r/SubAlliance. SubAlliance will be a nonprofit, volunteer, community-based initiative to solve all of the problems that I have laid out. We will create tools and resources so good, so useful, that everybody will have to work with us. Think talent agency, but for subreddits.
Okay, so two things. One, I'm actually... Okay, first of all, gonna, again, not stay on that particularly unflattering frame. But, okay, so on the surface, I actually don't disagree with him saying, hey, there's a problem. You know what? Fuck it. I'm going to be a part of the solution. Honestly, having a group that provides just information and resources and all this stuff that is user run, I'm on board with that, actually. I don't necessarily trust this guy to be the one fronting it. But, just in theory, this is not something I'm against. But also, talent agency and nonprofit doesn't usually go together. And it's also hard to start a talent agency from scratch with no direct experience in the space. Because one of the things that, aside from just the logistics of things you're paying somebody to do your due diligence as far as brand deals goes, you're paying somebody to handle negotiations for you. One thing that talent agencies do is they have leverage and they have connections, and they can use those to get better deals for their clients. A new talent agency of unskilled, unexperienced people just isn't going to have any of that, and is going to be harder to be able to actually do anything. And also, I will say that just as somebody who is a creator who may or may not eventually work with an agency if my numbers get to that point, I would not want to work with an agency run by someone like this just because he has a history of not doing due diligence. Just like I can tell you, no matter what, I'm never going to work with Mythic because they did not do their due diligence and allowed a scam to get propagated. He's done the same thing, and it's not out of any kind of malice towards this guy or anything. It's just like, hey, you've shown to not do your due diligence in the past. If I'm going to be sharing a percentage of my revenue, I want it to be with somebody who will do their due diligence. So again, if they took on like an experienced person to help them make this, I could see it. But I think as long as it's a nonprofit, or at least, a nonprofit in the sense that the people running it don't get paid, it's going to be, generally a talent agency works by taking a percentage of their clients' revenue. That's just kind of how it works. It's going to be hard to find people who are actually have the ability to do the job that also want to do the job if there's no money in it.
You have the big ideas, you have the vision, you have the crazy cool things that you want to do, and we handle the logistics. Materially, that means connections to major companies, partnerships, doing AMAs, running events, doing mod recruitment, cross-collaboration with other relevant subreddits, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And again, I'm not against that kind of thing existing. I just don't see how this guy is going to make it happen. And also, I also fundamentally think that it's going to be hard to get the right people involved without there being a financial incentive, because those people could just do the job for an actual talent agency or work with actual people that are drawing money. Yeah, I just don't. I think he's a little bit too utopian in his ideas.
Go to r/suballiance and we will make it happen. The link will be in the description below. Reddit used to be a place where we did stuff. The phrase, "we did at Reddit," although used sarcastically, existed for a reason. And that is because what we do, right or wrong, matters. Let's see what we can do to make it better. Thanks.
Okay, so yeah, that was the end of that video. And again, fundamentally, I don't think this is actually necessarily a bad guy. I think he is too invested in the power of what being a Reddit mod entails, at least for a large subreddit. I think he has some misunderstandings about how things work, and he does seem to be fairly gullible. Like, he just kind of jumped on a scam without even really checking it out. I don't know. I think this guy just... He's choosing a lot of hills that he's dying on, and I don't think they are hills that need to be died upon. And yeah, I get that people are making fun of this guy. He's an easy guy to make fun of, but I don't know. He just seems to be completely misguided in a lot of ways. I think I've explained myself fairly well throughout this video. It's just, he's not going about things the right way, in my opinion. So normally what I would do at this point is share the link in chat and also in the description of the highlights channel. Today I'm not going to actually do that because I feel like any attention I will send this guy will be just disproportionately negative if I actually do provide easy access to finding him. I mean, it's easy enough to find the video if you want to, but at the same time, I don't want to facilitate giving this guy any shit. Please don't give him any shit. Any mean things you want to say about him, just leave it in the comments and let it stay there. But yeah, that I don't know. I think he's misguided. I don't think he's as horrifically terrible. I think he's just kind of an idiot. That's pretty much my take on things. And I think I've thoroughly explained myself in the video. But for those watching on the highlights channel after the fact, thank you for staying around this long. I appreciate you, and we'll come back and see you in a couple days for a new video. Later.